In the spring of 1967, the Ed Parker International Karate Championships in Long Beach, California, buzzed with the usual mix of sweat, chalk dust, and whispered rivalries. The arena's concrete floors gleamed under harsh fluorescent lights, and hand-painted banners from dojos across the West Coast swayed gently in the draft from industrial fans. Spectators filled the bleachers, black belts in crisp GI, curious teenagers clutching programs, a few Hollywood types in sunglasses hoping to spot the next big thing. Organizers had tacked on a late addition to the lineup, Bruce Lee, the sidekick from TV's The Green Hornet. To them, he was a ticket booster, a 5-minute novelty between the heavy hitters. Backstage smelled of liniment and old canvas. Bruce rolled his shoulders, loose as a cat, ignoring the side eyes from competitors twice his age. At 26, he was lean muscle and quiet intensity, still years away from Enter the Dragon or the global storm of Jeet Kune Do. Most of the old guard saw him as a dancer with fast hands, good for camera tricks, not real combat. A grizzled judo coach named Hiroshi Tanaka leaned against a stack of mats, arms crossed. "They'll cheer for flips," he muttered to a nearby Kenpo instructor. "Then forget him by tomorrow." The Kenpo man grunted. "Speed's cheap. Depth costs decades." Bruce heard none of it, or chose not to. He breathed slow, eyes half-lidded, studying the grain of the floor like it held secrets. The tournament rolled on in disciplined bursts, thunderous ki, splintering boards, synchronized kata that drew polite applause. Each school got its moment, Okinawan Goju-ryu tracing roots to Chojun Miyagi, Korean Hapkido black belts certified in Seoul, American Kenpo lines crisp as pressed uniforms. The MC, a baritone ex-Marine turned promoter, rattled off lineages like scripture. Bruce was slotted near the end, after the trophies had already started circulating. Ed Parker himself, tournament founder, Kenpo legend, and the man who'd extended the invite, clapped Bruce on the back during a break. "Keep it snappy, kid." Couple spins, that 1-inch punch the stunt guys rave about. "Give 'em a thrill." Bruce's gaze stayed level. "You want a thrill," he said softly, "or the truth?" Parker chuckled, thinking it was a joke. "Both, if you can manage." When Bruce's name crackled over the speakers, half the crowd was already edging toward the exits, programs folded into fans against the August heat. And now, television's Kato, the one and only Bruce Lee. Scattered claps, a few whoops from Green Hornet fans in the nosebleeds. He walked out in plain black cotton, no embroidery, no flair. Stood center mat. Let the silence stretch until it itched. Then, voice low but cutting clean, "Styles are maps. Combat is the territory. Maps lie when the ground shifts." A ripple of confusion. Someone coughed. Bruce continued, "Forms teach rhythm. Opponents break it. Who here wants to test the difference?" Dead quiet. Sparring wasn't on the card. Then a stocky Shotokan brown belt hopped the railing, eager to be the guy who dropped the TV star. They bowed. The brown belt lunged, classic reverse punch, hips coiled textbook perfect. Bruce wasn't there. A blur, a tap to the solar plexus, and the man froze mid-extension, eyes wide like he'd hit a glass wall. 11 seconds, start to finish. The crowd inhaled as one. Bruce reset, palms open. Telegraph in the shoulder. Commitment without options. He wasn't gloating, he was dissecting. Another volunteer, a Taekwondo red belt with legs like pistons, tried a spinning heel kick. Bruce slipped inside the arc, fingertip to the ribs. For seconds. Beautiful arc, predictable apex. A boxer next, gloves borrowed from ringside. Bruce dropped levels, swept the lead leg, caught the man before he hit mat. Power's honest. Balance is negotiable. Each time he bowed deeper to the challenger than they bowed to him, then turned to the bleachers and taught. Not preach, taught. The gym leaned in. Even the concession kids stopped slinging sodas. Hiroshi Tanaka watched from the wings, jaw tight. He'd spent 40 years refining judo throws until they felt like breathing. Now a kid half his age was rewriting the air itself. Bruce scanned the room one last time. One more. Anyone. The beat. Then Tanaka stepped forward, not in challenge, but surrender. The old judoka crossed the mat, stopped an arm's length away, and bowed so low his forehead nearly grazed the canvas. The arena held its breath. Tanaka's voice carried gravel and awe. "I came to judge. I leave instructed." He straightened, eyes wet. "Thank you for the reminder. The art lives when we stop guarding it." Silence thicker than smoke. Then Ed Parker started clapping, slow, deliberate. One by one, black belts rose. Not cheers, not yet. Recognition. The sound built like distant thunder, rolling through the rafters. Bruce bowed again, humble, almost shy. The MC fumbled for words, gave up, simply announced, "Bruce Lee, ladies and gentlemen." No music, no spotlight fade. Just the shuffle of 1,000 people recalibrating what they thought they knew. Backstage, Parker caught him at the water fountain. "I booked a sideshow. You gave a sermon." Bruce wiped his mouth. Same stage. Different script. Parker laughed, the sound half apology, half conversion. Outside, night air carried salt from the nearby Pacific. A cluster of teenagers tried to mimic Bruce's footwork on the asphalt, tripping over their own sneakers. He watched a moment, smiled small, then melted into the parking lot shadows. Next day's Long Beach Press Telegram ran a sidebar on page 7. "TV actor schools karate elite, with respect." Word spread anyway. Phone calls between dojos, scribbled notes in training logs, a quiet revolution in warm-ups and sparring drills. Tanaka hung a single photo in his dojo. Bruce mid-parry, hands relaxed, eyes calm as deep water. Underneath, in careful brush strokes, "Adapt or calcify." Years later, when Bruce's face stared from movie posters worldwide, old-timers at tournaments still swapped the story. They wanted fireworks, they'd say, voice low. He gave them lightning and showed where it strikes. A decade on, a shy 12-year-old stepped into Tanaka's dojo clutching his father's hand. The boy stared at the photo. Did he really beat everybody? Tanaka knelt. He didn't beat them. He freed them. The boy's eyes sparked, small but fierce. The spring of 1967 baked Long Beach in a dry, restless heat. Outside the arena, palm fronds rattled like cheap maracas, and the Pacific's salt clung to every breath. Inside the Ed Parker International Karate Championships, the air was thicker, liniment, chalk, adrenaline, and the low hum of 1,000 egos packed shoulder to shoulder. Fluorescent tubes buzzed overhead, turning sweat into tiny prisms on every brow. Hand-painted banners snapped in the draft. Goju-ryu Okinawa, Hapkido Seoul, Kenpo USA. Programs fluttered like white flags of surrender in the bleachers. Ed Parker, 6-foot-something of Hawaiian muscle and Hollywood charm, strode the floor in a powder blue blazer, gold pinky ring flashing every time he pointed out a celebrity in the crowd. Vic Moore, the undefeated point-fighting champ, shadowboxed in a corner. Joe Louis, fresh from the Marines, cracked his neck like gunfire. And somewhere in the chaos, a last-minute addition had been scrawled in red ink on the program. Bruce Lee, demonstration, 9:45 p.m. Backstage smelled of Tiger Balm and old canvas. Bruce sat cross-legged on a folding chair, eyes closed, thumbs circling slowly over his knuckles. A teenage black belt from Fresno peeked around a stack of mats. "That's him? The Chinese guy from TV." His buddy snorted. "Kato don't fight for real. Bet he does backflips and calls it kung fu." Across the narrow corridor, Hiroshi Tanaka, 58 years old, wrists like bridge cables, adjusted the knot of his black obi. He'd flown in from Osaka for this, one of the few Japanese masters Ed Parker personally invited. Tanaka's judo was legend, throws so clean they looked rehearsed even when they weren't. He watched Bruce the way a surgeon watches a street magician. "Speed is a trick," he told his interpreter. "Depth is a lifetime." The tournament unfolded like a military parade. Goju-ryu broke 3 boards with one elbow, crack. And the crowd rewarded them with golf clap respect. Hapkido demoed wrist locks that made a 250-pound volunteer squeal like a kettle. Kempo ran a 6-man kata so synchronized the MC joked they shared one heartbeat. Each school bowed out to polite applause. Trophies, cheap gold plastic on marble bases, were handed off like relay batons. At 9:30, Ed Parker found Bruce near the water cooler. 5 minutes, kid. 1-inch punch, maybe a flying side kick. Give em the Green Hornet highlight reel. Bruce's eyes opened, dark and depthless. You want a reel or a revelation? Parker laughed, clapped him on the back hard enough to rattle ribs. Both if the reel's got legs. 9:45. The lights dimmed to a single spotlight. Half the arena was already trickling toward the parking lot, convinced the real action was over. The MC, ex-Marine, voice like a foghorn, leaned into the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, straight from your living room and the mean streets of Hollywood, television's Kato. Bruce Lee. Scattered claps. A drunk in the third row yelled, "Do the car jump, man." Bruce stepped into the light wearing plain black cotton, no belt, no patches. Bare feet on cool concrete. He didn't bounce. Didn't shadowbox. Just stood. Let the silence stretch until it snapped. Then, voice low but carrying to the cheap seats. Styles are cages with fancy bars. Combat is the sky. A ripple of confusion. Someone in the front row whispered, "Is this a poetry slam?" Bruce continued. Forms teach you to dance with shadows. Opponents cast real ones. Who here wants to step into the light? Dead quiet. Then, thud, a stocky Shotokan brown belt vaulted the railing. 23, cocky, fresh off a tournament win in Fresno. Name tape on his GI, J. Carter. He cracked his neck. Light contact, movie star. Try not to cry for the camera. They bowed. Carter exploded, textbook Oizuki, hips snapping like a whip. Bruce wasn't there. A blur, a fingertip to the sternum, and Carter froze mid-punch, mouth open, 1 foot still in the air. 11 seconds. The arena inhaled. Bruce reset, palms open. Telegraph in the shoulder. Commitment without exit. Carter blinked, bowed stiffly, retreated rubbing his chest like he'd been branded. Next, a taekwondo red belt, legs like switchblades. Spinning heel kick, whoosh. Bruce slipped inside the arc, tapped the floating rib. For seconds. Beautiful parabola. Predictable apex. Then a boxer, gloves borrowed, ego on loan. He threw a looping right. Bruce dropped levels, swept the lead leg, caught the man an inch off the mat. Power's honest. Balance negotiates. Each time, Bruce bowed deeper to the challenger than they bowed to him. Then turned to the crowd and taught, clinical, kind, devastating. The gym leaned in. Concession kids abandoned their popcorn. A grandmother in the bleachers clutched her purse like it was a rosary. Hiroshi Tanaka's arms unfolded. His interpreter whispered translations to the judoka beside him, who nodded slower with every breakdown. Bruce scanned the room. One more. Anyone carrying truth heavier than pride. The beat. Then Tanaka stepped forward. The arena held its breath so hard the banners stopped flapping. The old judoka crossed the mat in measured steps, stopped an arm's length away, and bowed, full bow, forehead to canvas, the kind reserved for emperors and the dead. Tanaka straightened, eyes shining. I came to measure. I leave measured. He turned to the crowd, voice cracking like old bamboo. This boy reminded me, the art dies when we stop breaking our own rules. Silence thicker than incense. Then Ed Parker started clapping, slow, deliberate. One by one, black belts rose. Not cheers. Recognition. The sound built like a tide, rolling through the rafters until the cheap seats shook. Bruce bowed again, almost shy. The MC fumbled, gave up, simply announced, Bruce Lee, ladies and gentlemen. No music. Just the shuffle of 1,000 people recalibrating their skeletons. Backstage, Parker caught him at the water fountain. I booked a sideshow. You gave a damn cathedral. Bruce wiped his mouth. Same stage. Different architect. Outside, night air carried salt and gasoline. A cluster of teenagers tried to mimic Bruce's footwork on the asphalt, tripping, laughing, rewinding the moment in their heads. One kid nailed the slip step, froze, looked up like he'd touched electricity. Next morning's Long Beach press telegram ran a sidebar on page 7. TV actor school's karate elite. With respect, not flash. Word spread anyway, phone calls between dojos, scribbled notes in training logs, a quiet revolution in warm-ups and sparring drills. Tanaka hung a single photo in his Osaka dojo. Bruce mid-parry, hands relaxed, eyes calm as deep water. Underneath, in careful brush strokes, adapt or calcify. Cut to 1970. A grainy Super 8 clip surfaces. Someone's cousin smuggled a camera past security. 11 seconds of Bruce versus Carter, looped in slow motion. The clip passes hand-to-hand in dojos from LA to Tokyo. No sound, but you can feel the hush. Cut to 1973. Enter the Dragon premieres. In the lobby of Man's Chinese Theater, a gray-haired Hiroshi Tanaka stands in line clutching a ticket. A reporter recognizes him. "Sensei, what do you think of Bruce now?" Tanaka smiles, eyes wet. "I think the sky finally noticed the bird." Cut to 1985. A shy 12-year-old steps into Tanaka's relocated LA dojo clutching his father's hand. The boy stares at the photo. Did he really beat everybody? Tanaka kneels. He didn't beat them. He freed them. The boy's eyes spark, small but fierce. He signs the waiver with a trembling hand. Cut to present day. A viral TikTok. Some kid in a garage nailing Bruce's 1-inch punch on a phone book. Caption, 1967 called. It wants its mind blown again. 3.2 million views. Final montage, voice low. A black belt in Brazil mixes capoeira angles into his kenpo. A taekwondo grandmaster teaches feints for the first time. A judo club in Osaka ends every class with 30 seconds of silence to listen to the opponent that isn't there. Fade in text over slow-motion footage of Bruce's bow to Tanaka. He walked in as a gimmick. He left as a question every martial artist still answers in sweat and silence. What happens when the form meets the formless? The arena that night never aired on television. No clip went viral in 1967. But every dojo that opened its doors a little wider, every student who dared ask why mid-ka, every master who paused to feel the shift in an opponent's weight, they all carried a piece of that evening. A whisper turned legend, still traveling faster than any punch. Screen fades to black. Single line appears. Tell us in the comments, what's the moment a martial artist changed your mind?